Welcome back. This is part 3 of the videos for my mini album in a gift box series. So far I've walked you through how to create the box itself, and then the second video being how to make the pages that go into this box. Now we're going to get into decorating this box. Now you can of course decorate it any way you want, and but I'm going to walk you through kind of what I did and what sizes and how many pieces you're going to need. And of course you can translate this. And I want to say there will be a link to a file that has measurements for everything you're going to need to cut should you decide to create this yourself, as well as a link to my Cricut Design Space file that I used to do all of the sentiment banners in this. And again, you don't need to use it, but there'll be a link for it if you decide you want to use it. Now I'm using the Painterly Pears from Stampin' Up, and I had a lot of fun working with this. I actually love the colors of this. Now we're going to be cutting for the lid sides, the base sides, and then all the pages on the inside. So just to refresh your memory, this box opens up, pops out, and then we have our pages in here, perfect for giving as a gift to somebody, for them to put their own pictures in it, or you can put the pictures in it yourself. We have a couple specialty pages in here. We have a pocket page with a little flip out with some pictures, and then we have 2 of these in this, and we also have 2 folio pages where you have a pull out for a couple additional photos, as well as a double-sided tag. I covered one side with pattern paper, but you could use it as journaling on both sides. And I'll walk you through all of the sizing on this. I do want to say that the majority of the photos are 3 by 3. I put these white pieces down just more as placeholders. And on these little pullouts, these are 2 by 2 photos. So basically in this you have place for 16 3 by 3 photos and 8 2 by 2 photos. So not too bad. 24 photos. Great opportunity to fill it in, give it as a gift, or give it to somebody that they can put their own photos in it. So I'm going to put this aside, and we will start cutting some pattern paper for this. I'm just going to fold this back up. I've already done a little bit of cutting. We needed some craft paper and some white paper for this. Move that off. And remember, I have saved these 2 triangular pieces from when I did the folio pages when I created the album. So I'm going to put those aside. What I have in terms of craft paper is I have 2 pieces that are 2 by 3. That's for our small tags. 2 pieces that are 2.5 by 3 1/4, and that's my large tag. Then I have 2 pieces that are 2 1/4 by 4 1/2. This is going to be for the 2 by 2 photos, and we're going to basically score and fold this each one in half. And then I have 2 pieces that are 3 1/4 by 3 1/4, and these are for the folio pages for the pullouts that have the photos on both sides. So I'm going to put all of those aside for now until we get to start decorating, get to use it. But that's already cut. And in terms of white paper or whatever solid paper you want to use, I have, again, for the tags, I have 2 pieces, again, that are, these are going to be, let's see, we've got 1 3/4 by 2 3/4, excuse me. That's going to be for one side of the tag. And then 2 more that are 2 1/4 by 3. That's for the large tag. And then I've already pre-cut all of my little photo. You can use these as placeholders, or you can use these as mats if you have your pictures printed slightly smaller. I have basically, this is going to be 16 3 by 3s. And then I have 8 2 by 2s. And in the example I showed you, I have a small camera stamp that I stamped on all of my pieces. But I'm just going to start cutting my pattern paper. And I am going to start with the paper I used for the lid and the sides. I'll just get my trimmer out. So this yellow pears paper that has this kind of branch pattern on the back. So I need one piece, so I'm going to start with a 4-inch cut, and I need one piece that's 4 by 4. This is for the top of my lid. I'm going to put that aside, and then I need 3 pieces that are going to be 4 by 1 3/4. So I am going to, and these are for the sides. I'll pull this back into frame for you. So I've got the lid top. Now I'm going for the sides of the lid. So I need 3 pieces. And just be careful of your directionality as you're cutting these. All right. So there's this is for the outside of my lid. We are going to be cutting some pattern paper for the inside, so I'm going to put that aside in a pile. And then in addition to that, I need 1 piece that is going to be 3 3/4 by 3 3/4, because I have one of my pages I did use this paper for the page itself. So I just put that 3 3/4 by 3 3/4. So I've got that. So actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my page ones off to the side so I don't confuse them with what I've got for my lids, my lid and my sides. So my next piece I'm going to be cutting, let me just find it. I've got my stack kind of off to my side, is this paper with these kind of the gray background with the pears on it, which I love this. And this has on the back this kind of dark green pattern. And just be careful of the directionality again, because you want to make sure, you know, which direction you're looking at this from. So I want it to be, at least for the gray pears, I want it to be this way. So I'm going to cut for the gray pears. I need pieces on this because the gray pears go on the inside of the base. So I am going to cut this. This is going to be 4. I need 4 of these. 4 by 2 and, let me see, yeah, 4 by 1 3/4. I want to make sure that that's the correct size. I hope. This is where I'm trying to do things a little bit. 1 and 3/4. 1, 2, 3. So this is going to be the inside of my base. So put that aside. And then I used this side of the pattern for the base itself. And I'm just going to double check my sides. And then, so I need 4 by 2 3/4 for the sides. 1, 2. So those are for the sides. And then 3. And then 1 more. Okay. So that's the sides of the box base. All right, and then of this, I am also going to need 1 piece. Let's see. That is, just double checking on my measurements. Okay, I need some additional pieces. I'll just grab some extra. I used up a lot of my paper, so I may switch something on this, but I do need some pieces that are going to be 3 3/4 by 3 3/4. So I'm going to cut this down. I'm using up the rest of the pack I started with this. So I'm going to cut this. I'm just going to show you, I'm kind of just showing you what I cut So there's a couple of the pages. And then, let's see, I've got, okay, yep. And I need my piece that has this large pear pattern. And this is going to be, so I've got leaves on the ones, this has the large pears on one side and my leaves on the other. So the large pears, I need 4 that are 3 3/4 by 3 3/4. I'm reading my notes as I'm going along, so if I mess something up, you guys can excuse me. So that's 3. One more. Cut one more. Okay, and then I did use the leaves on this at for the inside of the box, so I'm gonna cut this at, this should be 4 inches wide. Cut this down. And I need 3 pieces that are 4 by 1 3/4. All right. So this is going to be the inside of the lid. So I'll just put this aside. All right, there we go. That's, and then I need 1 piece that is 3 3/4 by 2 1/4. Okay, I'll leave that aside. My next piece I have that I'm working with is, okay, is this piece here, and I love this piece. This is one of my favorite patterns. Is it's got this beautiful yellow grid on the back and the black with the pears on the front, and I need 3 pieces that are 3 3/4 by 3 3/4. I've tried to make sure I've written everything down, but you know, as I'm doing this, I may realize I didn't write everything, so you guys will have to, but I will make sure that the link to the directions does have everything that you need. So I've got some more pages there. And let's see. And let's see, one more piece. This is a beautiful pink pattern with this black grid on the back. And we are going to cut 4 that are 3 3/4 by 3 3/4. Since this is double-sided paper, some of the pages are going to use one side, some are going to be use the other side. And I need one more. And, okay, there's more pages. And then the last bit I need to cut is, and I'm going to use my scraps for this, is this beautiful pink pattern. On the back of it is kind of a frame area, but I'm not using this pattern. And I need to get 2 of these that are 3 3/4. But first I need one that's 4 by 4. So that's going to be on the inside of my lid. So I'm going to cut it at 4 by 4. So this is the lid inside. Put that aside, and then cut the rest down to 3 3/4, and I'll cut 2 3 3/4 by 3 3/4 squares, and that's the rest of my pages. So there's my pages, and there's my lid. And I hope I've cut everything I need because I'm kind of going by this. So what we're going to do first is I'm going to start with the pocket pages. I've got one here and I've got one here. So we're going to cut that because what we're doing is I'm using the piece of front and back for there and front and back for there because I'm going to cut it and then I'm going to stick the piece underneath it. So I'm going to just put this aside. Bring my box I made with you on my last video. And we're going to start with this pocket here. So in this one I used the pink pears and the black grid. So this is what I did. So one of the pieces is going to be, so basically the grid front. Oops, just want to make sure I've got my right sizes based on my notes. All right, hold on, just pulling my sizing up. So the pocket front is 3 3/4 by 2 1/4. So we're going to take this 3 3/4 by 3 3/4 and we're going to cut it down to 2 1/4. And this will be on the front here. And then I'm going to flip it around and I'm going to take my leftover piece and kind of insert this into the pocket. This makes it easier also when you're putting something into the pocket to do that. So I'm going to do that same thing with my second one, which is the large pears and the green leaves. And I'm looking at it to what part of it I like the best to be the front. So this is the one I'm going to use to cut down to 2 1/4. So that's this piece. And then this is going to insert inside. So let me just adhere these. I'm not going to walk through everything on this because I don't think you guys need me doing it. But since the information will have photos of each of the pages, you can kind of follow along with what I've cut and placing them on your own. I just wanted to walk you through kind of some of the specialty parts of it so that you can see how I decorated these. This pocket front. I especially want to show you how I did the folio pages. Yeah, putting this in and sliding this into the pocket helps because when you go to put your tags in, you're not running into the top part of the pocket. It makes it slide in and out easier. So that's my pocket pages. So now next up, we're going to do the folio page. Now, what we did with this is, remember how I had you save the triangle that came with, that we cut off when we created this folio page, because that's going to be important. So for this front one, I took one of my pieces and I just inserted it here. So I'm going to adhere this. And I'll go over this twice as I'm doing 2 folio pages. So I'm just putting that in here. Okay, then I took another one of my large pears with the green leaves. And so what I did with this is I'm going to use my mat, but you can do this with a ruler. Grab my pencil, which should be around here somewhere. And I marked, because we're coming from this direction, this is, remember we marked 1 inch up and 1 inch in. So I'm going to take this at 3/4. And you can, if you want, you can another way to do it before I start marking it is to use your page as a guide and find the corner of where your pocket is and mark on your pencil here in the corner of your pocket and mark about 1/4 inch in on each. And you can draw a line and cut this by hand, or you can pull out your trimmer, which is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to line up my little marks. Get that there. Make sure I've got the right mark. Yep. And then I'm going to cut this down. And then save this. We're going to use this on that triangle piece I had you save. So let me just pull one of these out. And so what we're going to do is adhere this to the front of the pocket. And then this piece, we're going to, it's a little bit bigger than our cutaway piece, so you are definitely going to want to mark. And you can use a ruler for this. It's up to you. I'm going to mark about a quarter of an inch in on each piece. Take my trimmer out and cut this away. Just make sure I've got my pieces lined up. Make sure. Sometimes I can't see too well, but pardon me, guys. Just want to make sure where I'm marked. Yeah, sometimes it's a little tough. Sometimes I can't see. Okay, I did mark there. So I'm just making sure what I'm looking at is where I marked. Yep. Better to double check and before you cut than to cut and mess things up. I always try to save as much paper as I can, so that's why I'm using the front side and then the back side of my pieces. And there's my front, kind of my second pocket that we're going to adhere here. And what I did with this piece is I used very thin score tape if you have it. If you don't have it, you could use glue. Just make sure that because you want to have as much room as you can to stick a tag in there, and you're only going to do the two sides. Oops, I don't want to go off camera. So I am going to bring this down. Yeah, using very thin score tape on this, only on your two sides. I've got my bone folder just to make sure this is adhered. And take my backing off. Oops. And I align this to the outside corner of that pocket. So that gives you your basic folio page. And I'll do one more of this. So I've got this folio page here. So that's this one. And I used for this, oops, pull some papers down. I used a green on the inside. And then I used one of my pink pear pieces. Just move my pile off. So adhere the green on the inside. Okay. And this one, we went in from this side versus the other one, which we did from that side. So that's what I'm going to do. I am going to mark it. So I'm going to place it so that I've got the kind of border on it. And then I'm going to mark it there. And oops, there. Just want to make sure I can see my marks. I'm sorry, the lighting is not the best. There we go. And I'm going to cut that off. Okay. Again, save your piece. So this is going to be on the front. I mean, you can decorate this however you want. I'm showing you what I did when I decorated mine. And then I'm going to take this piece on my other triangle that I saved. And I'm going to do the same thing. So we're going to cut, I'm going to mark about 1/4 of an inch in on both spots. Cut that away. And then again, I'm going to use my thin score tape on this. That's going to be like that. So I'm going to just take my corners folder. Take the backing off. And then align it here. So those are the 2 pocket pages and 2 folio pages decorated. Now the remainder of the pages, really you are just placing some of your pattern paper on the page and then adding your placeholder to it. I want to show you just a couple little tips. And again, I'm also going to say I would recommend for your pages, you can use regular adhesive, but when you're dealing with the front and the lids and the backs and the base pieces, I would use a stronger tape on it. I'm going to show you a little tip that I did with the tags, because this is something definitely you're going to want to do. So for the tags, when I do tags, this is typically what I do. So I'm going to use my mat, my grid on my mat to kind of mark where I'm going to want to trim the tag. So what I'm going to trim the pattern paper for the tag first. And the white paper and or the pattern paper. So I'm going to mark my tag corners, and you're going to do this on both. What I recommend doing is do this on both pieces. So let me just move some stuff out of the way and get, I think on this one I used a little bit of the yellow. So again, this piece, was for the tags. Just make sure I've got my sizing correctly for you. And again, this will all be listed. So I'm going to use some of my yellow, and the tags themselves, we are cutting 1 3/4 by 2 3/4. So I'm just going to do one of the tags, and the same kind of follows for all of the tags. So I got 1 3/4. 2 3/4. Make sure I got that right. Yep. So I got the larger tag here. Sorry, I'm looking at the larger tag. And the larger tag I used. Let me just grab this. Oh, that black pattern. Let me just grab a piece of that. I'm getting a little confused. Sorry, guys. So, I mean, you can use really anything that you've got. So I'm just going to I'll grab a piece of this. So the larger tag, since that's the base I was working at, is 2 3/4 by 3. Sorry, 2 1/4 by 3. Just want to show you one tag before I talk a little bit about the stamping and embellishing. So I've already marked this piece. I'm going to sandwich these together to then cut my corners. Okay. And then I'm going to take my tag base. Oops. Get the right piece of paper that I put aside. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to adhere this the tag base still as a rectangle. All right. And then I'm going to use my tag, that the white piece I just cut, as a guide to cut away the corners of the tag. And then I'm going to add my pattern paper on the back. Okay, so there's the base part of my tag. Now I added a little bit of a kind of a grommet on it. What you do with this, if you haven't already seen this, I have two little punches that I keep in my stash. This one is a 1/4 inch punch. This is a 1/2 inch punch. I'm going to punch through. If you don't have to do this, but if you want to do the hole in the tag like I did there, and I meant to say eyelet, I said grommet, but I should have said eyelet. And I'm going to pull up some scraps. So what I'm going to do here is, first I'm going to punch, because I'm going to do two of these, one on the front, one on the back, 2 1/4 inch holes. And then I'm going to use my 1/2 inch punch to make the kind of eyelet part. So there's one of my eyelets. There we go, line it up. And there's 2. So these are great. I've had these punches in my stash for a while, and they work perfect for doing this, for doing any kind of eyelets. So I am going to adhere that to both sides of my tag to kind of finish my tag. And then I just used a ruler and pen to do my lines on my tags. Now, that's kind of the basic, what I do for tags, pockets, and folio pages. So let me just kind of fold this guy back up. And you can decorate it however you want. I used the Perfect Pairs Stampin' Thin Cut set for this. So let me just put this aside so I can go over the rest of this with you. And just get this in the right way so that you can decorate, like I said, you can decorate it however you want. I'm going to use all of the pieces we cut. And like I said, for the base, sides, inside, outside, and the lid pieces, all of the pages, I'm just using regular adhesive, but the lid sides and the lid insides, this is what I'm going to be using this. I'm going to use my score tape for this. For the embellishments for this, there's a Cricut. I have a link to the Cricut cut file where I did a print and cut for all of these. I tried to pick a bunch of kind of basic sentiments that worked good for kind of a gift album that could be really for any occasion. So these are all, and then what I did is they were all cut out as rectangles, but then I dovetailed them. This sentiment banner for the bracket for the top. If you don't have a Cricut Access subscription, you could change this bracket to just a square, whatever works for you. I use these to decorate the pages. And then I use the Painterly Pairs, Perfect Pairs, to do all of my embellishments. And I did a little something fun with this. So what I did, and I'll show you, I've got a couple pieces here. I used watercolor brush. I wanted to give some tone to the images. So what I did is I used a watercolor brush and my ink to stamp the. So what I've got here is I've got the 2-pair stamp, and what I did. Just make sure I put this on one side so I don't mess it up. So I took a small block, inked it up a bit with my old olive ink. I've got my water brush. Open it up. And so I've got Darling Duckling. So what I did is I inked up the stamp with the Darling Duckling, and then using the water brush, I brushed some Old Olive onto the stamp to kind of give a little bit of additional color to my pears, like that. I know it might be a little hard to see, and then you can still take the water brush to kind of blend it in if you don't find it's blend in the way you want it. So I did that with that, and then I used the Secret Sea with the outline. Close this before I get something on it. And then I took, oops, just get a piece of scrap. Okay, and again, I still used my block, and I just gently watercolored in my leaves using the ink on the block. Using the Old Olive. And I also used pecan pie to do the stems. You could stick with Old Olive, or you can use pecan pie. Pecan, I never know the right way to say it. So, and then for this flower cluster, I did use Petal Pink, and I kind of did the same thing. I stamped the outline with the Secret Sea, and then I watercolored it in using a watercolor brush. And then I ran it through my mini Stamp and Emboss machine with the dies to cut out the pieces. And that's what I used to decorate all of the pages.